Hello, this is John Joel Regan for Fighters Only magazine. I'm joined on the line by Brad Pickett, who's coming off a huge win at last week's UFC on Fuel 2 event in Stockholm, Sweden. Brad, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here, loud and clear.
Great, thanks for joining us. So let's start with the win. You must be feeling very good now, 1 week on.
Yeah, no, great, awesome. As in, obviously, winning was so important to me, really important. So, especially, I want to be someone within the UFC, and Page is a good opponent, but he's someone I believe if I want to be someone within my weight class, that I had to beat, and I'm so glad I did beat him. And, I'm looking forward to getting back in there again now.
You made an interesting comment after the loss to Henan Barrow at UFC 138. You said, I think you said you didn't feel like a man, or you want to feel like a man again, something like that.
Yeah. When you get beaten up in front of loads of people, you get quite deflated, and you don't feel like you're a man because you just got beat in front of everyone. So, and now I feel like a man. I'm walking around like with my peacock feathers hanging out now. So I feel good.
As for the fight itself, have you watched it back yet?
A few times, yeah, definitely. I watched it back. Always good to watch your fights back. I watched my Henan Barrow fight loads of times as well.
Right.
You always got to see where you went wrong, what you did good, what you did bad, and that sort of stuff.
Because I remember we were all sitting in the press section for the Damacio, well, for both fights actually, but for the Damacio Page fight, and after the first round, there were loads of journalists from all different publications turning around and saying, "Wow, that was one of the rounds of the year already. That's probably going to be like one of the best fights of 2012 already." What was your own personal take on your performance, especially round one?
Round, I actually didn't think it was that good. When I'm watching it back, I did what I had to do. He comes out quite wild and strong in the first round. He's very much, in my eyes, a run-round fighter where he's well beaten in the first round. He's dangerous. So I need to make sure I make it into a competitive fight in the first round, but also try and wear him down and get him tired, which I did. But then I think the second round was actually more exciting because I managed to drop him a couple of times and all that sort of stuff. But he was tough. He survived and stayed in there. But kind of the plan was the game plan was going right, where the first round try not to get too crazy, but still fight how I normally fight, but draw him into a fight where it's going to get him tired, and hopefully try to finish him in the second round, which I did.
Well, I think the thing with the first round was like you see, because he's got that one good round in him that he came out like he does, and he tried to blow you away in the first, and I think that was why it was such a good fight, because I think he possibly knew as well, if he didn't get you out of there in the first, it was going to become harder and harder for him to win the fight, which was why it was exhilarating for people to watch. And then he looked like, he gassed a little bit, or possibly even become like a little bit demoralised or something in that second round. When he came out for the second, he had a couple of big swings, a couple of big hits that he went for, and then he kind of looked like he sort of run out of ideas a bit, or he felt very much on the back foot. Could you feel that coming off him?
Yeah, no, definitely. As in, after the first round, I pretty much was very comfortable. I was like, okay, right, this is mine. This is mine to lose, basically. The first round, obviously, it started off, it could go any way, you don't know, because he throws hard and wild. If I get caught, you never know. But obviously, after the third round, I could see that he lost a bit of his, a little bit of his power, because he got tired a little bit. So then I thought, okay, he's not as dangerous now, and now I could open up a little bit more myself and try and put him away.
Do you think he was cornered by Greg Jackson, right?
Yeah, he comes from Greg Jackson's camp.
Was there any anything in your mind beforehand when you going up against like a master game planner like Greg Jackson? I guess there's only so many game plans you can put together for Damacio Page, but I think that's the first one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but with Damacio Page, he's very our customer is a very emotional fighter. He fights very emotionally, and when you're that sort of emotional fighter, it's very hard to stick to a game plan. I think, because you come out quite crazy, and you fight how he does. He might not really keep to a game plan, which I don't think he would. When having Greg Jackson in your corner, it's very important to have good cornermen and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still you fighting in there. So.
Run us through the post-fight then. So after the fight, you've gone to the post-fight press conference, and you were having an exchange with Dana White, and I think at one point did you tell him that you haven't got a car or a house or something? What was it?
Yeah, no, yeah. I kind of like got kind of like took out of context. And what I was saying is like, basically, I've sacrificed so much to this sport to get to where I am now. Every penny I earned before, I always put back into myself to train. I don't think he understood when he said training, because I paid for myself to go to America, and I used to travel to America to train for my fights, even my domestic fights. You know, so I done that to make myself a better fighter than I am today. And so I didn't have a lot. I've never had a lot of money, and it's only basically these last two fights I've earned really good money, you know. So this is the only time. And now, like I was saying, I can start moving more. And I have got some money now, and I'm saving it. And now I'm looking to buy myself a house.
Are you going to buy a house in England? You're going to stay in England, or do you think you'd ever?
No. England is my home, and also I'll travel to America to get ready for fights. But like, I like doing that because it's like have my day-to-day life here in England, and I still train. I've got good training here as well now. I've got some good coaches on board helping me out with my strength and conditioning, my jiu-jitsu and my wrestling and all that sort of stuff. So I have good training here, but then also when I go to America, when I land, it's like, okay, I'm here for a reason. You know, it's easy to switch on when I land in a different country. You don't really tend to have your day-to-day distractions.
Okay, it's like a commute to work, I guess, in a way. When you step off the plane, you're in the office for 8 weeks, and
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us, in your opinion, about the gap between sort of the training available in the UK and obviously what you see when you go over to the States. Like, is there a big wide margin still, or is it starting to narrow a bit?
Obviously, there's a lot of good people here in the UK, but you know, it's not as many full-time professional fighters as there is over in America. There's so many. I mean, it's just bigger out there. There's like 280, over 300 million people in America, and there's, you know, I don't know how many, about 70 million in the UK. So obviously, there's a lot more people to train out there, and also you have a lot of people come from a big pedigree of different sports like wrestling or jiu-jitsu and stuff as well. So all that together, you know, it's good. But don't get me wrong, I have some great training and sparring partners here back in England, but just there you have a massive variety. You have a lot more people my size, my weight class, and also, like when you're at a camp in England, sometimes someone has a fight, or someone gets injured, or someone goes on holiday. That could hinder your camp a little bit because, you know, but in America, especially American top team where I train, there's so many good guys. If one or two is missing, it's not really going to affect you too much.
Well, that leads me neatly into a question about another British guy on the card in Sweden last week, was John Maguire, and he fought an American opponent, Damacio Johnson, who's trained with Jeremy Horn among others. And he's, you know, spent his entire development around high-level US and UFC guys, and yet John pretty much schooled him on the floor, took a great submission win. Did you get a chance to see the fight?
Yeah, I saw the fight. I watched it. Yeah, it looked good.
What did you think?
Maguire had done a very good job. I think as a lot of people really underestimate the level of people here. You know, the only thing I think we lack a lot of is wrestling. You know, but Maguire's actually got good wrestling for a UK person, and I just think Damacio Johnson kind of like underestimated him and didn't really respect him as much as he should have done, which a lot of American guys do with the English people, and he got caught. You know, and it was silly him. It was very good, very slick. I mean, the move that he caught it with is actually quite a basic move, but it's such a slick move to do. And I guess, you know, Damacio Johnson wasn't really expecting it, or he didn't expect someone like John Maguire to know a move like that. And in that case, it's just silly of him, you know. You can't do stuff like that.
And what about Jason Young? Jason had a big win as well. His performance was outstanding, I thought.
Massive win from him. You know, he needed that win. You know, he had a lot of pressure on him going into this fight, coming off 2 losses. He needed this win, otherwise he pretty much certain that he was going to be out the door. So for him, you know, it was a massive win. You know, he's just had a kid, and just this is. I think for Jason, one of his worst things is himself. He finds it a lot hard. He's such a talented fighter, and I'm not just saying that. I've trained with him for a long time. And I mean, he's phenomenal, but he's got no self-confidence, and coming off 2 losses and stuff like that, I think he suffered a little bit with his confidence and maybe not knowing if he should be in the UFC or shouldn't be in the UFC. But believe me, he's a guy who should be in the UFC. He's a great fighter, and hopefully now this will give him a little more, spring in his step. He'll be able to fight how he should fight. And even though he won that fight, I know he's still a lot better than he was. But he done a very professional job and got the job done. But if you see back in the day when he fought Dustin Poirier and just got beat by Dustin Poirier, he was very devastated on his feet. But now he went, he's very more well versed now. He's wrestling and all other aspects and stuff. And hopefully now, with a bit more confidence and self-belief, he could go on and do something.
But it is a steep learning curve. Like unless you're one of those very few guys that has kind of progressed from the UK scene to maybe Japan, then to like a mid-tier show like Bellator, then to the UFC. Like it's a huge leap going from the UK scene.
Exactly. That's why I tell a lot of people. Like my friends of mine, like Bolo and Luke and stuff like that, and Michael Bastu, who fight in English scene and fight on like UC MMA and stuff like that. I told them, look, you need to spread your wings a little bit and go fight overseas. Not have to be on a big show. Just go fight on a local show in somewhere in Europe. Go fight on a Superior Challenge. Go fight some show in Canada like Jason did actually, or go fight somewhere just to get that overseas sort of experience, which is very important because you don't want your first big fight to be in the UFC.
Yeah. Well, it's not just. I think it's not just the fact that you're fighting overseas for the first time and it's like a big stadium and a foreign crowd, but you're in strange accommodation, you might not speak the language, you've got to get your food sorted out, you've got to like...
Yeah, you got to cut weight in a different country, all that sort of stuff where you're not used to cutting weight easy in your own town and you know exactly what you're doing and you get very comfortable. This time it takes you out a little bit out of your comfort zone and you've got to fight out your comfort zone, which, sometimes... you have to do it. You have to do it at all levels.
So let's get back to you then. Big win. Any idea what's next?
Not at all, really. I'm just looking to fight anyone really ranked above myself to try and help get back in there. But I'm in good hands. I'm coming off a win, so I'm just waiting for them to get to me and just say, look, you're Brad, you find this guy on that day, and I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm. Any particular names in mind?
Yeah, I'm not really one of the guys to shout out names. But one fight that I'll be looking at this weekend, what makes a little bit of sense to me, is like Michael McDonald and Miguel Torres. I was supposed to fight Miguel Torres some time ago, and also Michael McDonald. He's ranked above me, and I think that the winner of that fight could be a possible matchup for me. It just makes sense. I'm not calling them out like yeah. It just makes sense for my career to fight one of those two.